So I'm going back to look at my reference picture, and I'm looking at how, reminding myself how this is a soft furnishing. It does have areas that are hard, but it's essentially soft and round. That's my whole pleasure in choosing that, was that it was round. So I'm going to go inside first, maybe, so that helps me segue into the thicker pen. You might find that too, that you like to have a little, and use a kind of dancing pen when you're working on this sort of thing. And there's my little fat cushion. So don't forget to go inside your lines. Now, one of the major reasons, beyond having figures to draw, that we've been doing those figure studies is so that you've had some chance to play around with outlines, what they can do for your drawing. And you don't have to put all of them in. You just put in what you think is necessary to get this across. And I had many struggles with this arm, so I've almost got it memorized now. Arms can be tricky, not just on people, but furniture as well. So sometimes you have to go over a line a couple of times, and that makes it thick. So this now is becoming thick, but I don't mind because it's part of the sofa that's closest to us. So that's not going to be too big a problem. Always looking at your reference, looking for ways to give it more definition. Now I'm going to go on the outside very soon. This helps on soft furnishings. Putting a double line like that will sometimes make it look more soft. Oops. Don't worry about a little thing like that. That's not really important. So I'm going to the outside now, but I'm going to segue into my thicker pen at any moment now. So this leg does not look straight suddenly, so I've got to straighten that out. And it's got to look substantial enough that it will hold her and it will hold the sofa. So it's definitely got to have a thick outline. Thicker pen. So this is a soft furnishing, so it's all done by hand. And if it's done in little segments, I can draw that in little segments. But you don't want it to be balloony. What will make this balloony is not interrupting your line and going inside. Remember, we do that with our figures. So again, those figure drawings that we've been working on are really far more important than might first appear, that they may be. So, and you're concentrating, so, but you never ever stop being conscious of what you're doing and why you're doing it. We're doing thick lines now because this is definitely an area of interest, and we're thinking now, does she need a little bit thicker line? I think that it wouldn't hurt just along her upper body. We see if we can get away with just that much. We can skip too, so that we don't outline her everywhere thickly. I wouldn't mind a little there though. That'll help to separate her from the back. If you intend to put a little texture on the planking, I would do that with a thin pen, but if we want to just indicate the planking, we can do that with our thinner pen. So that a thin pen for the planking and a thinner pen for the wood grain. And you can almost, this I kind of like, that was an accident, but it went from dark to light as it got closer to us, just the way these are dark to light when we framed our drawing. And what you have on one side, you do the same thing on the other. It helps to do them at the same time. When you divide up your planking, you can use your squares underneath. So I thought it would be interesting to have my far planking and my close planking on the other side to be the same. And then this inside should be the same over here. You might be a little curious right now to see what's going on in terms of your drawing by erasing a little bit. Remember to leave it a little while. Maybe, I don't know how long we've been doing this, but leave it a little while before you try any of that, because the marker paper does not absorb ink. It sits on top, so. But I'm getting now, I need a better picture of what I've been doing than I had previous to this. So, because I'm going to put this in, and I don't want it to be more important than my light. So I've got to figure out how to do this without that happening. I'm going to switch to a ballpoint pen for these lines, and I've got a pretty good guide in there. I can't get close enough to this to do this with my ruler. I would have, but my big fat head would get in the way. So I'll just, but what the point of it is, introduce another thickness of pen if you need to. There are no restrictions on that. Don't use a colored pencil, but you can switch to a different pen. Now, mostly what you do in the future, what you'll be doing is not drawing on your grid at all, but putting a piece of vellum over top and making your drawing with the vellum, and then going to the copy shop and getting a copy on bond. And mostly you render your work on bond paper. So this, what we're doing now, is a little bit different than what you'll be doing in the future. The reason I'm explaining that is that normally if you were going to render this, you would never put ballpoint pen there. But because we're not rendering it and we're not even making a copy of it, it's okay for me to have used my ballpoint pen there. And I think it's giving me the best. I had to put that line in. I had to stop and put this line in before I could continue, but I think it's going to give me the best option for this. Now don't forget, keep using your vanishing point. It's just very subtly here, but we made a special effort to get it on there. So see, I'm going to see a little inside my picture. Now the inside of this mirror, I think I'm going to go in and put some part of it a little bit thicker. So this is thicker here, so, and it's quite jittery. This inside part could give it a little more jittery quality. And the tips are a little bit important. This will bring this side of it, this part of it, closer to us too. And this has a bit of thickness, so that's why I wanted to. But this I want to just disappear in space. In terms of what to put in the center of a mirror, it's really the perspective on the other side of the room. So you could just put in some perspective lines and some vertical lines, and that would indicate what's going on across the room. In windows, you do a double line. That indicates glass. And you don't have to put 2 in each one. You could just put 1. But it gives the feeling, it breaks that space up, and we get a feel for it being the shiny glass. And this one, these are curved, so I want to make sure to curve that in. So you see, these decisions, no matter how long you've been doing this, these decisions have to be made. They're not automatic once you get used to doing it. You really have to be conscious of what it is you're doing, what it is you're after, and what it is you want to communicate. So this is a piece of communication. So you wouldn't send a document to a client without proofreading it and making sure that you've said exactly what needs to be said. So it's the same thing. This is a fairly important line too, but I'm going to make it thinner. And then there are a lot of studied lines here. I have a whole recess. This recesses, and then it comes the other way. This was my inspiration for how to deal with the bookcase, how to deal with the window treatment. It was a very important piece from my drawing. So this, of course, would have involved custom carpentry in order to have this repetition of this shape throughout the room. So normally this is much faster and more accurate, but as I keep reminding everyone, I can't get very close. I have to sit back, and I'm trying to keep my head out of the way, but it's a bit tricky. And you're always using your vanishing point. You never stop. This is the sort of area where you really have to be careful, because the front portion of this is overlapping, so I can't see very much of this plane. So I have to compensate for that. Here I can see the whole thing. Now, eventually the inside I might go, I don't think I will go darker. I think I'm just gonna keep it to the outside so that the inside we accept as fireplace, but we don't need to see it or emphasize it. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't need to emphasize it. I'm just going to put another line in here. So this goes in like that. All of those pieces of now, I don't think I'll be able to find, probably if I thought to have my French curves ready, I might have found something there. This is, I don't know if you'll remember, was some sort of decorative flourish in the fireplace. This is just some sort of wire basket that's in there with the wood. That's good enough there. There's my angle. Now I should of course be using my set square to make those lines, but and we decided we'd open our drawing up by going outside. I don't like these two lining up, so I don't know if there's something I could do. Maybe offset it with another line. I'll try that first. That helped a little bit. It helped to set this forward. A little more detail in the back helped to set that forward. Switching to my thicker pen, and as you notice, I'm continually consulting that faint image. Now this, I'm going to do this line rather than the thickness. Keep consulting your vanishing point. And then when I do my now I've got some flowers, some leaves sticking out here, so I'm going to see if I can leave those to escape. Those, of course, will be in thinner lines because they're inside. Now, I didn't mention it, but you could be using cross corners throughout this drawing as well. That's something that looks quite professional and gives a real sense of finish to a drawing. You don't want to spend too much time on your entourage, but enough so that it adds that homey quality to it. This is still bothering me, so I might even go in and do another line in here. So see, you have to really keep. That helps to set that up a little bit more. What I'm trying to do is get that to read separate and apart from what's behind it. And in a line drawing, there are only those few things you can actually do to make that work. And don't forget to keep using your vanishing point for all your receding planes. Okay. Now there's just the carpet left, and I've got my pattern drawn out from my grid, so I can just start to indicate that a little bit. And I might bring back what I did here so that it's not too aggressive. And I'm going to just, what this is a little bit of a gray pattern on a carpet. So to better assess how that's going to look, I have to start removing some of these pencil lines now. I think they should be dry enough. So I don't like the look of what's happening beside her face, so it requires more finish so that her face is set up properly here, so we can tell what's going on, what's her and what's outside. So in your final stages, this is what you're going back and doing, is just checking to see if everything's jiving. You have your, that wasn't bad as a thin line. I didn't mind that as a thin line. It helps describe the form a little bit. I just added a few lines to her, so I've got to give her time to dry. But I need to assess just how much of that pattern down there I should include, and I won't know if I don't have the weight of everything else, if I don't know the weight of everything else. And I have to get rid of some of these pencil lines to truly know what that would be. This might be enough. This might be okay. And I can let this pattern taper off. I don't have to do it everywhere. I do it mostly around her, around my focus, which is my shades. And then I can let it taper off and peter out as it gets closer to the front of the drawing.